We are already talking about commitment number 2 on the day during Big Cat Weekend 2024 for Auburn football. We have another one to talk about on the defensive side of the ball. We're going to get into all the things that you need to know and what it means in regards to this latest commitment for the Tigers. Let's get into it right now. Well, war eagle to everyone out there, and thank you so much for joining us and being part of our little family within the Auburn family here at E2C Network, the Auburn Experience. We are here for another, probably the second really of many, live streams in regards to what's been taking place for Big Cat Weekend, one of the big hallmarks in the recruiting cycle each and every year for Auburn football, usually at the very end of the summer. We are here for this particular stream to break down the latest commitment. And when I say the latest, this is in regard to our last video. There have been commitments that have happened before and after this one. Keep that in mind. We are talking about in context of when this one get committed, and then we'll cover the other ones when we get to it because there's a lot happening. So with that in mind, let's talk about who this individual is. For the 2026 class, for a rising junior in a sense, we have Shadarius Toodle, one of the best names that we have had in quite some time, coming to be part of the Auburn football 2026 class, a linebacker out of Mobile, Alabama. So a lot of cool storylines to talk around with this one. We want to dive into what it the facts that you need to know about him right now. We are still far off into the future when his commitment will actually hopefully hold true and take effect. But we've got some stuff that maybe you want to know right now. And then we can talk about, from what we know right now, what it means for the team, for him, the class, all of those different aspects. We'd love to hear from you in the chat as you're watching live. I'd also love to hear from you on the replay. If you've got comments or questions about this particular commitment, let us know there as we go along throughout the stream with you today. As a final reminder, we have already done one live stream in regards to our first commitment today during Big Cat Weekend, which we did a little bit, maybe about an hour or so ago. So make sure you go and check that one out. Hezekiah Harris, Edge Rusher 2026 class. Do not miss your opportunity to talk about that one as well. We had a good time giving you the things that you need to know and what it means, of course, for Auburn football. So let's dive into this one. Let's talk about what we know, the things that are the most important right now. Remember, we are really far away from this commitment actually being finalized and all that stuff. These are rising juniors, 2026 class. So don't get you should get super excited, but don't get overly invested in this because obviously things can change, and quite often in this day and age in recruiting with NIL, all that stuff, transfer portal, things get crazy. So what do you need to know about him? He is a 2026 linebacker commit. Right now is what he's listed as a linebacker. Oftentimes these kids continue to grow and change, especially when they commit this earlier. Things may change in terms of his position. You don't really see that change very much from the position group, but right now he's listed as a linebacker in the 2026 class. His measurables are somewhere between 210, 220, 6'3". Very similar to what we just talked about in our previous live stream with Hezekiah Harris, although he was an edge rusher type of guy. Kind of what I was just alluding to there. You know, these guys are very similar-ish in body builds. So it's just interesting to see one's an edge rusher, one's a linebacker. We're just going to go with what the conventional wisdom is right now as a linebacker for this particular one. We're talking about Shadarius Toodle out of Mobile, Alabama, and that would be Cottage Hill Christian Academy. I'm going to take a quick personal note on this, and this might be interesting to some of y'all and may quell a few maybe concerns that I have heard pop up before about other recruits in regard to this topic. Most of you probably won't know about Cottage Hill Christian Academy. It is from what most people consider a lower tier of football in the state of Alabama, high school football. It is part of what is called the, and if I believe I still have all this correct. I did some quick research on it to make sure they were still there. The AISA, not the AHSAA, which is a smaller private school league in a sense where very small schools. And so by that virtue, a lot of people assume that it's a lesser tier of football. So sometimes people can see those things, know those things about the schools, and just associate that with the program. That is not necessarily the case when it comes to the talent that comes out of there. It may not come out as frequently because it's smaller schools, less schools, but it is something that has happened before. I'll give you an example from our rival. O.J. Howard came from, I believe it was Edgewood Christian Academy or Academy, one of the two. Had a pretty good career, made it to the NFL. Prince Tega Jr., I believe, also came from Edgewood as well, if I have that school correct. So this is something that's happened before. So if this is a concern for you, I really wouldn't worry about it. But it's even cooler that it's coming out of the state of Alabama and Mobile. More on that in just a little bit. So we touched on his measurables. We touched on where he is going to play, where he's from. Really, that is the main crux of things that you need to know right now in terms of facts to know. Lots of time still for this kid to grow, change. He's got to play his junior year and his senior year, stay committed, all that stuff. So that's what we'll just go with right now. More importantly for this, let's talk about what it means. Yes, for him, but let's talk about what it means for Auburn's class, Auburn's maybe depth chart, how he factors into it. Yes, that's far off in advance, and maybe what it means for the rest of the class. So let's start off right here with your class. And this is, we are talking about, again, as a reminder, in relation to what we knew at the time of this particular commitment. I'm going to say some things that some of y'all are going to say, no, we're actually ranked here, whatever. We're talking about as related to his commitment time. At the time of his commitment, he became, Shadarius Toodle, became the 4th overall commit in the class, making Auburn in the 2026 class the number 2 overall class. Previously was at number 3 with the last commitment, who we've talked about and already done a live stream about. Forget where they were before that, but I'm sure a little bit lower than that, but have progressively made their way up further, maybe making their way up even further before we get to hopefully another live stream as my time allows today. But as of this moment, across all the major sites, and at the time of his commitment, it was a number 2 ranking for the Tigers out of all the classes in the 2026 class right now. So the number 4 commit in the class at the time of his commitment would have made him the first at that time linebacker commit, and the second out of the state of Alabama. So let's talk about that. We talk about how it's huge in terms of being able to recruit your home state. I mean, it's your home state after all, your backyard, within your state, your surrounding areas, kind of that bubble, and then the state in general. It's another thing to go into certain areas in your state that are traditional strongholds for other teams / your rivals. And or, because I would say LSU probably has a pretty strong case to make down there in the Mobile area. Mobile has traditionally been a place that Alabama has had a lot of success, and rightfully so. They've been good for a while. Auburn has made, dividends down there in the past, but maybe not as much as Alabama or some others. To be able to do this, to be able to take care of the state, to go down to Mobile is a humongous thing. Kyle even points it out on our stream while he was watching live. Love that Mobile pipeline starting to reopen for us. So he knows what's up. He knows how important this particular commitment is in that regard. So that also makes it the second at the time of his commitment out of the state of Alabama. The first was Cale Ellis out of Georgia, Denarius Gray out of Florida. And then we talked about Hezekiah Harris, who we just did a live stream about, out of Alabama as well. So the second, Shadarius Toodle, at the time of his commitment. What does it mean in terms of maybe way too early to talk about playing time, but like, what does the depth chart look like? Where does he factor into all of these things as we're talking about it, thinking about it? Because these are important discussion points for us. If you look at the depth chart right now at linebacker, as things stand at this moment, and we're still having to factor in the 2025 class that is going to be in between all of this. At linebacker right now, you have Austin Keys, who is a senior, Eugene Asante, who is a senior, Dorian Masai, I believe is how you say that, who is also a senior. And you're also got Fanaje Gote, who just got here, who's also a senior. So regardless, even if somebody, one of these seniors, who are all probably in line for the most starting playing time right now, are going to have an extra year of eligibility, they will all be gone, which means names like, if they stay here, are going to be DeMarcus Reddick, brand new freshman, DJ Barber, brand new freshman, Robert Woodyard, who's been here for a while. He will have probably made his way up into the playing time ranks as well. So depending on what happens with the 2025 class and linebackers there, you've seen us talk about some of that a little bit, you might have some opportunities to compete for some playing time. But I wouldn't expect it to be one of those things where you come in right away and you're a Cam Coleman type of player where everybody's expecting you to start right away. You just never know, though. That's the great thing about these kids. They have the opportunity to come in, prove us all wrong, and show us what they're made of. So we'll see how all that shakes out. And finally, what does this mean for the class? As things stands right now, at the time of his commitment, the 4th overall commit, the first at the linebacker position, second in the state of Alabama, I would say we're not done in the state of Alabama. I would say we're not done at the linebacker position. And I would have said that regardless of some other things that happened after his commitment. And I would definitely say with only 4 commitments that we are not done in this class, nowhere near. But what an incredible start for Hugh Freeze on this weekend, Big Cat Weekend, in this class. It's only going to get better, folks. So I hope you took something away from this. You learned a little bit about what you've got in this particular commitment. Shadarius Toodle coming to be part of the Auburn family. Hope he stays with that commitment and signs about a year and a half from now. So that's all we got for you today on this particular commitment. Make sure you watch our other live stream and stay tuned as we have some time today. We'll get to some more videos about more of these commits from Big Cat Weekend. Thank you for tuning in. Till we talk to you again. War Eagle.